When something goes wrong in your life, a broken relationship, a failing business, a day lost to nothingness, your mind immediately activates a defense system. You look for someone to blame. It was the traffic, it was the economy, it was your boss, it was just bad luck. You are an expert at building castles of excuses just so you don't have to face the most uncomfortable truth of all, that the person responsible for your stagnation is you. You have an amazing, almost superhuman ability to protect your own ego. We live in a culture of self-esteem at all costs. We've been taught that we must always speak to ourselves positively, that we must forgive ourselves for everything, and that feeling good is the ultimate goal. But while you embrace your own complacency, your potential is rotting away. In Japan, there is a term called Hansei. It's not a light reflection, it is a ritual of honesty. It is the act of sitting in front of the mirror of your own conscience and recognizing with surgical precision where you failed, why you failed, and what you are going to do to ensure it never happens again.
Why is it so hard to admit a mistake? It's not a lack of intelligence, it's about survival. Your brain interprets criticism, even the kind you give yourself, as a physical attack. To your ego, admitting you were wrong feels like a small death. This is why the brain prefers to lie to you. It creates cognitive biases. It filters reality so that you are always the hero of the story and everyone else is the villain. Most people live in this state of constant hallucination. They spend decades repeating the same mistake because their ego is too fragile to recognize it. Hansei is the tool designed to break this biological armor. In Japanese culture, failing to recognize a mistake is a sign of disrespect toward oneself and the community. The mistake is not the end of the world. The end of the world is the blindness toward that mistake. When you practice Hansei, you are training your brain to stop seeing failure as a threat and start seeing it as the only real source of data for growth. Those who do not look at their shadows will never be able to control their light.
The word Hansei is often translated as reflection. At its core, Hansei involves a sense of haji, or constructive shame for having failed to meet expectations, either your own or those of others, and an iron will to correct it. It is not about self-flagellation for its own sake, nor about drowning in guilt. Imagine you are a craftsman. If you build a chair and one leg is shorter than the others, you don't say, "Well, at least I tried," or "The wood was bad." That would be an insult to your craft. You sit down, you look at the chair, you accept that the work is flawed, and you ask yourself, at what point did I get distracted? Why didn't I measure twice? Hansei is the internal audit of your life. In Japanese schools, children have a Hansei time at the end of the day, not to be punished, but to learn how to take responsibility for their own growth. If you don't end your day by analyzing what you did wrong, you are simply letting time pass without becoming someone better.
We are obsessed with motivation. We look for videos, quotes, and songs to give us a rush of energy to act. But motivation is a volatile emotion that depends on whether you slept well or what you had for breakfast. The Japanese don't rely on motivation. They rely on Hansei. When you succeed, Hansei reminds you that there is always something to improve, keeping your ego in check. When you fail, Hansei gives you a detailed map to climb out of the hole. While the world waits to feel like it before starting, the practitioner of Hansei begins because they have already analyzed that they have no other choice if they want to achieve excellence. Improvement doesn't come from inspiration or motivation. It comes from the relentless correction of yesterday's mistakes. Hansei is the fuel of consistency. It's what allows you to wake up on Tuesday after failing on Monday, not with a fake smile, but with an action plan born of the purest self-criticism.
Hansei,
requires the right environment. Don't do it while looking at your phone. Do it in silence. Start by asking yourself 3 questions your ego will hate to answer. First, what didn't go as expected today? Don't look for external culprits, just the facts. Second, what was my exact responsibility for that result? This is where most people quit. Be brutal. Were you lazy, afraid, arrogant? And third, what specific action am I going to take tomorrow to make sure this doesn't happen again? Hansei without an action plan is just self-pity disguised as philosophy. If you realize you procrastinated because your phone was nearby, your Hansei for tomorrow is to put it in another room under lock and key. It means looking at the trash you've accumulated in your mind and taking it out before it starts to smell.
If you want to see Hansei in action on a grand scale, look at Toyota. They have a process called Hansei Kai, or reflection meetings. When a project is successful, they meet, not to celebrate, but to analyze what went wrong despite the success. Can you imagine that? In the West, if we win, we pop the champagne and forget everything. In Japan, if you win, you ask yourself why you didn't win more efficiently. This approach creates a culture of invincibility. If you are capable of criticizing your victories, no one will be able to defeat you in your failures. Corporate Hansei teaches that complacency is the first step toward obsolescence. Your biggest enemy isn't your competition, it's the feeling that you've already made it. There is a very fine line between Hansei and self-critical depression. It is vital that you understand this so you don't destroy yourself. Guilt looks back and says, I am a bad person for what I did. Hansei looks back and says, this thing I did was a mistake, and I am the person who is going to fix it. Hansei gives you power because it restores your sense of control. If the fault belonged to others, you would have no power to change anything. By accepting that the fault is yours, you regain command. You are the captain of a sinking ship, yes, but you are the only one with the tools to plug the holes. Embrace the discomfort of admitting you were wrong. That sting in your pride is the sound of your ego breaking to let someone wiser emerge. Hansei is the alchemy of the soul. It turns the lead of your mistakes into the gold of your wisdom. Look your failures in the eye. Don't ask for forgiveness, ask for correction. Stop being a lawyer defending your own crimes and become the judge who pronounces the sentence of your own improvement. The world is full of people who feel good about themselves while their lives crumble. Be different. Be one of the few who have the courage to feel bad today in order to be unstoppable tomorrow. Because true peace doesn't come from ignoring your flaws, but from having a plan to conquer them. Tell me in the comments, what is that truth about yourself that you've been avoiding? Don't justify it, just name it. Hansei starts with a single honest word. Thank you for allowing yourself this moment of necessary discomfort. Subscribe if you are ready to look yourself in the eye and speak to your conscience with honesty. Until next time.